1st of May is a really important day. It's one of the quarter days because it's the celebration of one of our seasons and it's the start of summer. Summer was just such a wonderful time. People said goodbye to the dark half of the year and they welcomed the summer with open arms. And what way they celebrated was through bonfires, and also then there was dancing. There was so much flowers about. The flowers associated with Maytime would have been these beautiful yellows and blues, and they often incorporated that into the festival. But then there was the other superstitions about the Maytime, and it was the time where the fairies were believing to be moving from their winter abode to their summer abode. So there was kind of a very superstitious time and a time for protection from the fairies. And also another aspect of it, not a nice one, was that it was a time for the tenant farmers to have to pay their rent, and it was a gale day, the 1st of May, the 1st of November, and after a poor winter, it was hard to get that 1st of May's rent. It was always a very hard time. So the May bush was really important. It was really part of the festival. It's like decorating a bush. Now, it could be a bush that's in situ, just outside your doorstep, and maybe you decorate it with ribbons or bits of flowers and maybe some of the leftover Easter eggs, and that would be your home May bush. But often there was another May bush that children would have carried from house to house as a welcoming of the summer. This was a way of just bringing the summer to each house in your neighbour's house. And the May bough would have been a larger May bush that would have been through cities, and it was almost like a bit of a tree almost, with sort of bits of flowers and lovely streamers and wonderful things from it. And then in other towns we also had the maypole. Now you might think that's kind of strange because like you associate that with more with Morris dancing and in England, but actually we had plenty of maypoles in Ireland, and then again they were around a big pole, possibly evolving from that a maypole being a large tree, but then again with flowers coming from that and dancing and associated with that. Now mayflowers really come into their own, they're blue, they're yellow, but it's just this lovely festival of flowers, and often children would have picked flowers the evening before May and left them, strewn them on the doorsteps of their neighbours as a welcome. When they opened their threshold or opened their door, they'd see that flowers on their doorstep, and there's such a welcome of the summer into their lives. And that was just such a lovely tradition that still survives so strongly, especially here actually in Mayo and in Castlebar. Like with all the other quarter days, and especially probably associated with October and Halloween, May was also associated with the divination of your future and foretelling who you're going to marry, and it was really important. All these quarter days always kind of, you look to them and see what your future holds. But often women would put nails in the ashes, or, things very similar to Halloween, and maybe see the next morning what the initial is, and is that the man they're going to marry, or put things under their pillow and dream about the man they were going to marry. So it was a real time for that. And then also there's, people would look to the weather, and it was a really important time. Like a wet May and a dry June makes the farmer whistle a tune, and there's sort of a swarm of bees in May makes the barns full of hay. But there was lots of proverbs and different things associated with weather divination. But always at the start of any quarter day, you're always looking to what the future foretells, and you look to the weather, and that'll be an indication of the weather that's coming for you. So looking to the weather that first morning was very important, especially for the farmer. But for any young woman, it was really important to go out on the 1st of May and get the May morning dew, because this was just the dew, this wetness all over the grass. This was the essence of summer, almost the vitality of summer, and they wanted to put that on their faces to have eternal youth, and but the promise of that, but just that retaining that essence of the summer. Another thing to actually collect, not just the dew, would have been the nettles. Nettles, it was a very lucky time to collect nettles the 1st of May. It was really associated with that. And then you would make your nettle soup, you'd make your nettle tinctures, nowadays you make nettle pesto, but it was really a lovely time for collecting nettles, and it was meant to be, superstitiously, it was meant to be the right time to collect nettles. The evil eye was a really strong belief for people in Ireland, and you might think that that's something that these eyes you've seen in Europe or in Greece, and the protection from the evil eye, but we believed in that here in Ireland, and our ancestors did, because it was really important to protect yourself from the evil eye. And the evil eye was if somebody looked at something that you had, maybe your cow, your crop, your churn, or your child, and if they looked at any of those things and kind of slightly with envy, then your crop might fail, your cow might die, your child might get sick, but your churn wouldn't produce your butter. And that was really important around Maytime. Maytime was really, especially around Maytime, people needed to protect their churn and their butter yield, because this was so important. So they took a lot of measures to protect themselves. Sometimes they put a bit of iron into, maybe a horseshoe into the bottom of the churn when they're making their butter. But also anyone who walked into the house, I'd say God bless the work, or take a dash of the churn at the same time, because the whole point was to wish you well with your work and your butter yield, and also make sure that you aren't unintentionally looking with envy and giving the evil eye. So by saying a prayer, that was always a useful thing. So there was a lot of ideas of protecting yourself from the evil eye and your churn and your butter yield, especially around Maytime. We have a wonderful selection of butter prints in the National Museum's collection. They're usually wooden, and they have a very beautifully carved decoration. They can be stamped onto the butter, and these will create a beautiful decoration on the butter. They were quite individual for people. They would have lovely designs on them, sometimes swans, thistles, different designs carved out, and they were so beautiful. But some of our butter prints are actually in the shape of an eye, and this was, especially when you think of Maytime, it's the evil eye and the protection of the butter yield. And a lot of our butter prints that are in the shape of an eye, you're actually imprinting on the butter the shape of the eye, and you want to protect your butter from the evil eye. Pure protection. The 1st of May, as we know, is May Day, but it's the day for selecting the May Queen. And the May Queen was a young girl, and she would be the innocence and beauty of the summer, and it would be all embodied in this May Queen. She would be paraded through the streets, strewn with flowers and garlands, and she would be the Queen of the May. She would be the Queen of the summertime, and it's going back to a more pagan times. It's the idea of bringing through the streets and your community, through the community, you're bringing in that welcoming of the summer through the May Queen. In some places they also had a May King that they selected, and in other places a May Baby, Monaghan, I think that happened. But it's just the sense of having that, this is our youth, this is our summer, and this is our future, and it's looking to that in terms of a procession. Another aspect of the procession would be from behind the May Queen. You probably have the May Bow, and maybe then you might have some hurling balls as decorating the May bush. And this was because this was the start of Maytime. The 1st of May was the start of the summer hurling, and very much associated with the start of festivities, because Maytime is the start of festivals. It's this time of the summer, it's the time for crossroads dancing. There's a bit more out and about, but also it's a great time for sport, and 1st of May starts the hurling season. So Maytime is a traditional festival, as we said, associated with flowers and fires and processions, but actually throughout Ireland and throughout Europe, but in the last 150 years, and certainly it's more associated with the devotion to Our Lady. And there's a really strong tradition of processions to Our Lady in the month of May. And there was the carrying of her statue. And it was like that she becomes the Queen of the May. It's her that we bring the flowers to. So a lot of home altars would be made. There'd be the roadside shrines, there'd be the grottos, and people would bring flowers there. So that's the sense that the flowers tradition is moved to Our Lady. And even our home altars might have a candle always lit. So even that fire element of the festival becomes embodied with that devotion to Mary, the Marian tradition.